The show I did this semester is Orange is the New Black by Jenji Kohan. And it premiered on Netflix in July, and it was a straight web-to-series show where you can watch all the episodes back-to-back because they all premiered at once. The main characters in the show is Piper. Her past catches up to her 10 years later for money laundering, and she gets locked up in federal prison for it. It was a one-time thing. She carried illegal, drug money across the border for her former girlfriend and drug smuggler Alex. And the third main character in the show is Larry, Piper's fiance. The theme of the show is that every sentence has a story, and that not all people that do bad things are truly bad, and not all people that do good things are really good. The setting was Litchfield Correctional Facility, which was a small women's prison. So it was really great to see good examples of interpersonal communication, because these women, time after time, would have to have, continuous encounters with each other. And we would get to really see how, their relationships would grow. So I included that in my paper. The first point I wrote about was how communication is a process, and it's always changing, because no matter who we're speaking to or what the situation is, we have to adapt to that. And so our communication might change, and you can't really put an exact definition on it. It's just something as humans we rely on and we adapt to make sense of our social world. Second point was self-concept. This was my favorite concept of interpersonal communication that had to do with Orange is the New Black, because Jenji Kohan, the writer, really focused on Piper's self-concept and how it changes throughout the show. When she first gets there, she thinks she's basically innocent. She doesn't belong in a place with criminals. And through the show, and through Alex, her former girlfriend, people like that make her realize that she has to own up for her actions. And that was, she grows, and her self-concept changes to where when she first gets there, she thought she was a better person than what she really is. So I really, that was my favorite aspect of interpersonal communication that had to relate to my show. The third point, I talked about perception and how it can change, based on our emotions at the time. I brought up some examples about different fights and stuff that had occurred between Piper and Alex or Larry. The fourth point was the importance of good listening. We could see how Piper clung to Alex more while she was in prison, because Alex showed an empathetic and appreciative listening style with Piper. But Larry really didn't show a good listening style with her, and it was apparent, so she relied on Alex more for a support system. My fifth point was about how language is verbal, and, the different functions of language. There's so many, I'm not going to really go into them, but I used different examples of the show, and I talked about how language can help camouflage our true emotions. And that brought me to my next point, nonverbal communication, because Red, who's the queen bee of the prison and the main cook, if you were listening to her words alone, you wouldn't think that she was intimidated by Officer Mendez, this really disgusting guard at the prison. But if you really, really try to pay attention to her nonverbal communication, her kinesics and her proxemics with them and vocalics and everything, it's obvious that he is what she fears the most in prison. The other point I chose to talk about was how interpersonal communication, good listening skills and everything like that can help resolve conflict. And I used different examples between arguments Piper had with various people. And my last point was the importance of having role competence, which was my second most favorite concept that I got to analyze about the show this semester, because we see how Piper is a fish out of water when she first gets there at Litchfield, and she totally lacks role competence, and a lot of the women in the prison get really fed up with her. And Red, she's the main person that helps her realize how things actually work in prison and what her role is in prison, and things go so much more smoothly for Piper once she realizes that.